Look, I can't help think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice. Please,
Oh,
do not know.
there's never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby.
It's bubbling, baby. Warm water. Warm water.
It is time, as we said in the intro, for a little fire and ice. Mike Tipton, Brandon the Iceman Cohn, hanging out with you over here on the far east side of El Paso, Union Drafthouse, another location that they've got over here, 12,040 12040. Tiera, Este on the corner of Tiera, Este and Zaragoza. Once again, this is like minutes away from my house. So I'm a happy guy. I could have walked over here.
Right.
I'm going through a pretty bad back spasm right now, kind of crooked. Don't want to do all that walking or any of that nonsense. But, Brandon, it is Cider Day. What happens on Cider Days?
Well, Cider Day, you have cider at a very discounted rate. It's very tasty. It's delicious. It's crisp. And that's what the day that Tip orders 2 or 3 of them at the very minimum. But, I mean, on a hot day like this, it's the most refreshing type of beer you can have. And $2 pizzas.
And I think that's the main thing, right? Is like getting those $2 pizzas in here because you and I can throw back on them pizzas. $2 pizzas, it's always a fun time for us whenever we get to be out here at any of the Union Drafthouse locations. So a big shout out to them. Tonight, they're going to have the El Paso Locomotive supporters part of the 8th notch out here as well. They're going to have, you can see on the big TV, I don't know if they can see it behind us, not really because Brandon's big head is in the way, but they got a huge TV here that they're going to be showing all the games on, all the Locomotive games. So it's going to be fantastic to watch that. Also, come out and support the El Paso Locomotive. I've done a terrible job in keeping up with them. I don't know if you've kept up with them.
Yeah, not so good.
It seems like for some reason, like baseball this year has actually been fun.
Sure.
So I'm not paying attention to like any of the other sports that are out there. I've been in baseball. We finally get the preseason with football here.
Thankfully.
I saw part of that Dallas Cowboys game. It did not look promising.
No.
But obviously, like, it's a bunch of dudes that aren't going to play. So did you watch any of that preseason game?
No, I was busy last week, but I mean, I don't judge anything at all on the preseason. I never have and never will. It's the most meaningless time of the year. It's the time of the year that you're hoping and praying your starters don't get injured. Again, I've said this many times. It's way too long. It needs to be 2 games and done. And that's it. I mean, and the most important thing is to test out your reserves, your draft picks, and, of course, the new kids that have come to the roster to see if they're going to make it or not. But in the end, it's the most worthless time of the year. But it is definitely a necessary evil to some extent. I mean, they can't just go in cold. But ultimately, it's a very bad time of the year because it's not good football. It's crap football.
I actually like it because it's bad football, right? I've always said it. Whenever you have bad football with more bad football, it equals a pretty great game. You watch the Jacksonville Jaguars reserves take on the Dallas Cowboys. That was a really fun game to watch. Like, now, obviously, a lot of the guys that scored and did a lot of stuff in the fourth quarter, they're not going to be on the roster. Like, let's be like, but it's nice to see those guys like showing out, trying to do their best, and try attempt to make like a team or a practice squad because that's really all they're hoping for.
Yeah.
Like, let me be the 53rd man on this roster, get a little bit of a higher check than the $10,000 bonus that I got for being on the for being a restricted free agent or an undrafted free agent. So it's cool to like see those players always going out there and trying their best and giving it a lot of effort. But I'm just glad football's back. In any form or fashion, I'm just glad that it's back.
Oh, thank God, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's peewee football. At least it's back. We missed it. I get so excited around this time of the year. Obviously, high school football starts next Thursday. College football starts this week as well, the NFL, in about, 17, 18 days. Any type of football, I'll take. I agree with you. And be it as it may, the end of that Cowboys game, the backup for Jacksonville threw a hell of a touchdown pass, from what I understand. So that
broke 6 tackles, had someone draped on him, and was able to plant his feet and throw the ball.
I hope he makes the roster after that kind of a throw. But yes, I mean, look, I'm just happy that it's back in some kind of capacity. I mean, I'll watch very minimal amount of the preseason. But I mean, hey, man, we're back. It's here. It's here until next February, thankfully. Oh, I've missed it so much. I really have. You know how much I love football.
You've got your Cowboys shirt on. I got my hat. David's got his shirt on as well. What are the expectations? Like, what do you have as far as expectations for the Dallas Cowboys? Because I don't feel like I have many for them. Like, I still feel Philadelphia is a much better team all around than the Cowboys.
No doubt.
My fandom obviously is going to make me talk crap and do all the stuff that I normally do. But I just feel like Philadelphia is a much better, well-rounded team. I feel like if San Francisco has any semblance of a quarterback like Brock Purdy gave him last year, they're a better team than the Dallas Cowboys.
No doubt.
And yeah, there's only two teams that I think are better than the Cowboys, but then you go to the AFC and it's Kansas City's game. But
Yeah.
like I don't see the Cowboys making a Super Bowl, much less winning a Super Bowl. Like maybe you make it to the playoffs and you get bounced out in the first round again.
I mean, at this point, is Dak Prescott even in the top 10? And I think a lot will be determined based on how we see, the first few games. The Cowboys will live and die with Dak Prescott. That's the bottom line. I mean, defensively, I think that based on some of their acquisitions in the offseason, I feel they're going to be better defensively. I think they're going to have one of the top 3 or 4 defenses in the league, which could be the silver lining here. But ultimately, running game is going to be strong. Receivers are strong. O-line is strong. I think they may miss Calvin Moore, who's, of course, with San Diego with them. He's with the Chargers, L.A. But bottom line, I don't know how I feel about McCarthy calling the plays. He's a bad gambler. He's not a good gambler. I ultimately feel that if Prescott can get his shit together this year and throw less picks and be a more poised quarterback, then they have a chance to really make something special just because the NFC is not deep at all. I mean, you have 2 other teams, as you noted, that to me could contend. And Philadelphia, who knows, they may take a step back. We all know how hard it is to get back to the Super Bowl. Not saying it's impossible, but they ain't Kansas City, and they haven't proved that they can get back again yet. Now, granted, Jalen Hurts is only going to improve, but they have a chance to do something special, Dallas, but it starts all with Prescott. If he doesn't improve, they're done.
But you also got to think about, like, whenever you look at the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, right? Like, a lot of these games that they won last year were those one-score games. Whenever we look at teams that win those one-score games or lose those one-score games, they always have, like, a revert back to where they start losing some of those games because you don't get the same luck that you did, years before. Miles Sanders, how's that going to get? Like, I know they got DeAndre Swift, but, like, how does that really affect the team? You look at them, and one of the things that's really interesting about them is that they lost 9 out of their 11 defensive starters. That's a lot to have to replace on a defense that was really good last year. They led the NFL in sacks. You would have thought it was the Cowboys the way that they were talking about Parsons, but they led the NFL in sacks. They led the NFL in pressures, and they lose 9 out of the 11 starters that they had on that defense. And you got to wonder, like, what's that going to translate to? How's that going to be? And, of course, there's always that unknown of injuries. When does the injury bug get you? They were very relatively healthy last year, especially last year whenever they had to deal with, their luck with the injury was the fact that Jalen Hurts got hurt in games that didn't matter.
Right.
He missed a couple of games that they didn't matter. They were able to get back on track, make their way over to the Super Bowl. Now, whenever you look at Philadelphia, you got to wonder, do they get that same kind of luck? It's the same thing that I asked with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think defense necessarily translates year to year. I think they got lucky last year having a great defense the way that they had them, because they had a really amazing defense the year before that as well. Now you've got some expectations on that defense where you got Gilmore from New England along with Trayvon Diggs. So you got, a much better cornerback situation, but you still have questions at safety. You still have questions in the linebacking core. You still have questions at defensive tackle, despite the fact that the guy that they drafted from Michigan looks like he's going to be a workhorse. But how's he going to be able to hold up to a full NFL season?
Yeah, those are all great questions. I mean, and clearly the fact that, that Quinn came back is going to be huge. You get your defensive coordinator back when it looked like it was absolutely a certainty that he was going to take a head coaching job. So, you kind of add all those things. And I personally, like I said, I'm sticking with this. I think they have a top 2 or 3 defense this year, which is going to be big for them. But obviously there's always these questions. You want to go back to what you noted about Philadelphia. And, they did pretty darn good in the draft. They beefed up their defense. I think their running game is loaded. They have 3 or 4 more than capable backs. But, look, any team will have their season completely destroyed with one bad injury. Unless you have the greatest backup in the world, unless you have Kurt Warner as your backup, you're done, if you happen to lose your quarterback early in the season. But with that being said, I think that Philadelphia has all the tools to win a Super Bowl. And clearly, to me, they are the creme de la creme of the NFC. And, look, they were one half away from winning the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
The bad second half did them in, questionable calls. And, of course, KC's KC. But look, I look at the AFC, and my goodness, there's about 4 or 5 teams that could easily come out of the AFC to win a Super Bowl, including the Jets, who, to me, I'm telling you, I'm not to say that they're going to do it, but to me, the Jets make the playoffs this year with Rodgers. I think they make the playoffs.
So I'll disagree with you on that one. I don't think they make the playoffs. They to me, have a lot more questions than just at quarterback.
Hey, they just got Cook. They got that Bryce Hall kid, who got injured last year. We'll see. They got a good ground game. They got good receivers. They got a good quarterback. They have a a decent defense. I mean, they're going to be good this year, the Jets.
So let's talk about Dalvin Cook, because he came from a team that had a good quarterback, that had a good defense, that had amazing weapons with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, right?
Yeah.
What did that team do?
They lost in the playoffs to the Giants.
They were horrible. They were one of those, like, just, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type teams.
Sure.
That's what they were.
Sure.
That's what I think that this Jets team is going to be, because whenever I look at them, I don't think they're better than Miami. You look at what Miami's got, like, that's like, maybe they don't have the quarterback as good as Aaron Rodgers, but Tua did a hell of a job. And whenever he was on that team and he was healthy, they were a really fun team to watch. They've got a ton of weapons. Then look at Buffalo. They're in that same division with Buffalo. That's all you got, like Josh Allen. They've got a lot of weapons over in Buffalo.
No, they're good, but they're underachievers. Buffalo, they could be beat.
And then the hidden, like, gem that we all, for whatever reason, forget about is that Bill Belichick is still on the Patriots.
And Zeke's there now,
and that's always going to be a team that is. Look what they did with, like, Garrett Blunt.
Yeah.
Now look what they can do with
Zeke
Zeke
won a Super
Elliott,
Bowl.
maybe.
Zeke's, look, fantasy-wise, I'm saying pick up Zeke, and the reason why is because he's going to be a goal line and a touchdown hog.
Oh, yeah.
Stevenson's Rashard, is that his three? I can't think of his.
Rashawn
Stevenson. Owners are going to be like, no, because it seems like every time they get to the goal line, it's going to be Zeke. So, I mean, that's a good place for him. I mean, you know how much Belichick loves, especially to flip around running backs. He never goes with a concrete guy. So that's a hidden gem, and Zeke still has some gas in the tank. And, exactly. That's going to be the most challenging division in all of football, I think.
Hands down.
It's going to be fun, man.
But, I think that's going to be the one where they just go in and constantly just beat up on each other. But I do think that the cream of the crop isn't the Jets.
No, I didn't say they were the cream of the crop.
You said they were going to make the playoffs.
I do think they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, remember, we have those wild cards and all that. So,
okay,
I mean,
so
I
would
think
be
three
teams from the AFC East would make the playoffs?
Potentially.
It's
done. It's done. It happens. Didn't 3 teams from the NFC East make the playoffs last year?
Yeah, but
it happens.
Yeah, I guess.
You could say yeah, all you want, but it happens. I mean, look, we know Buffalo. I just don't know Buffalo and Miami. But then again, Miami, who knows? They crumbled last year like a clay statue down the stretch. And there's no solidifying and saying that Miami's going to be that much better. I mean, honestly, I think Miami's going to be good. Are they going to be great? Tua also has to take that next step up, in my opinion, for them to be that Super Bowl contender. So, I mean, there's question marks with the Dolphins, too. I'm just saying.
I guess the one team that we don't really have question marks on, I guess we kind of do because the running game would be Buffalo, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Like that team, Josh Allen, as long as he's healthy, they're going to be a contender.
They're going to be good. They're going to make the play. They're going to 11, 12 wins probably. And the thing is that to me, they really disappointed me last year. I really thought that, in the most clutch situations, they goofed, especially against the Bengals. I mean, they would have lost that game had the unfortunate incident not occurred. What was it, like late week 16, 17 with Hamilton? But I mean, Cincinnati's another team. If their quarterback's healthy, the sky is the limit for Burrow. I love John Burrow, rather. Josh, I call him John. I'm thinking of Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Listen to me like a schmuck.
There's a bunch of J
throwing
names.
J names around left and right.
You can call him Jericho Burrow.
Jericho's a good name. That's a better name than Joe. He's the average Joe, right? You know what I mean?
So whenever I AFC East, like, that's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be fun.
The AFC in general is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Man.
Right?
There's a lot of good teams. The Ravens, the Raiders could be decent, although they don't have a quarterback. But I mean,
Jimmy G wins.
Where's Denver going to go? I mean,
I don't think Denver's going to be worth watching.
You don't like Wilson. I know you've never been a Wilson fan.
No, I was. I was a Wilson fan, but I mean, last year he went until week 15 where he had finally thrown more touchdowns than he had restrooms in his mansion. That's insane.
His better days are behind him. We know that without question.
And to me, like, okay, they've got a decent defense. They might have, bolstered up the team as a whole. They're not better than Kansas City.
Yeah.
They're not better than the Chargers. Mm-hmm. They might be, on the fence with the Raiders. Like, I think that's going to be like a flip back and forth of who's going to be in third place in the division. Because it's not going to be Kansas City. It's not going to be the Chargers in third place. I think that Vegas, Jimmy G wins. We don't know. We don't know how. He just wins. Like that's what he does.
Quarterback.
He's okay, right?
He's got some weapons, man.
Yeah,
he's got some weapons. I mean,
and the Raiders' defense is really good too.
Yeah,
like,
it should be a fun, especially the incentive of hosting the Super Bowl. That's always there.
Yeah,
So.
Oh man, we got to try to go to that Super Bowl.
Oh man, imagine that'd be great.
Super Bowl in Vegas.
Viva, we'd have a good time, you and I.
Oh, it'd be a fun time.
You'd be a fun guy to hang out with in Vegas.
Your liver would hate you by the time you came back if you're going to Vegas with me. So I'm looking at that, right? So the AFC East, clearly head and shoulders, that's going to be the toughest division in football. The AFC West, I think, is also going to be a pretty tough division in football.
Yeah.
The one that I don't think is going to be tough, and the one I think has a lot of question marks in it, is going to be the AFC North. Because whenever we look at the AFC North, you got the Ravens. Still some questions around that team.
No doubt.
You got Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
A lot of questions around that team.
Questions, yeah.
Cincinnati, I think, is going to be obviously the team.
They're good.
And then the Browns with much more question marks than all the other teams have.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson can stay healthy, can finally get some form like he had back in Houston, because what he looked like last year was absolute dog shit.
Yeah, and that's after not playing for 2 years, so let's not forget. And learning a new system. So all of the above. He should be much better this year, hopefully.
And you got a weapon like Amari Cooper.
Yeah, he does.
You got Nick Chubb. Like they've got a solid team there. It's just I don't see how that division is going to be any fun to watch.
No,
I also don't see how the AFC South is going to be fun to watch with Indianapolis. Tennessee, I think, is going to be the one that runs away with it. I know people are all about Jacksonville right now, but I kind of like Tennessee and the stuff that they've done this year, especially getting DeAndre Hopkins.
That's big. It's huge.
You got that with Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter who the damn quarterback is. You just throw the ball and you'll be all right.
But I don't think they throw the ball enough. I mean, obviously they're way too dependent on Derrick Henry. I mean, they work him to the ground, and he has become a better receiving back, which was never the case a few years ago. But I mean, I personally feel that Jacksonville is still, they've also made a lot of improvements. And I still think that I like Doug Peterson. I really think he's a great coach. He's a great coach at developing quarterbacks. I think Trevor Lawrence could have a breakthrough season. I really do. And they could be one of those dark horses you have to watch out for.
I agree with you on that. I think they're one of the more fun teams to watch. Last year it was Jacksonville and Detroit that I thought were going to be the two teams that you watch.
Great, man. I love Detroit. You know what? I mean, I'm not to say they're going to win that opening night game against KC, but I really do think Detroit's going to. I think Detroit makes the playoffs this year.
Go in there and bite some kneecaps.
Yeah, I mean, they're good. No, I like Detroit. I like, and then some, right? But I like Detroit. I think Detroit's going to be not even a sleeper. I think they're going to be good this year. I think they win 10, 11 games easily.
Well, whenever you look at
that's a weak division,
Okay, so let's finish up our thoughts here on the AFC real quick. Okay, so we got the AFC East. Who do we think is going to be the team that wins the AFC East?
I'm still going to stay with Buffalo.
So we're both going to go with Buffalo.
Yeah.
Then on the AFC West, who do we think is going to win that?
Kansas City.
Hands down.
Yeah, Kansas City, no doubt.
Then we go to the AFC North. Cincinnati easily.
Cincy, yeah. They're the best.
Then we go to the AFC South. And I think this is where you and I have a
Jacksonville.
little bit.
You think Tennessee, right?
I think it's going to be Tennessee. Yeah. But my playoff teams, I think, are going to be Jacksonville and the Patriots. I don't know if I'm going to go with the Jets right now. Like, I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers guy, so I can't really go a whole bunch with that. But I think it's going to be the Patriots and the Jaguars. The Jaguars, I think, are too good to not make the playoffs. Like you said last year, that was such a fun team to watch. They have all these weapons around them. Trevor Lawrence, after a horrible rookie season, was like, oh, my God, is this guy going to be anything? Comes out and just slaps everybody around and is like, yeah, I'm pretty damn good at this.
Good. He was good last year.
See what happens if you give me some weapons, I can do stuff.
Right. Yeah, the ground game and so on, Yeah. At ETNs, he's the real deal.
So who do you think is going to be the wild card teams out of the AFC?
I'm going to go with the, Jets. That's a great one. Jets, Dolphins, and, I'm trying to think of the last one. Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll throw the Dolphins in there as well. I forgot we got 3 playoff teams, or 3 wild card teams.
Yeah, that's the extra one there.
I'll throw in the Dolphins in there as well.
I think they're going to make the playoffs. I say they win 10 games this year, the Dolphins. I think they're good enough. It's assuming that Tua stays healthy, though. Okay. Tua has to, hopefully for at least most of the season. I mean, you can miss a few games and still.
In a couple of minutes, we are going to be joined by Rob
Zbilski.
And
I hope I'm pronouncing
his name. Rob Zbilski from the World Association of Kickboxing Organizations, the WAKO. They're working on trying to get kickboxing into the Olympics in 2028 that will be held over here in the United States in Los Angeles, not Las Vegas, although that would be fun.
Viva, right? LA.
Could you imagine the home field advantage the United States would have if they held the Olympics in Vegas?
Oh, that'd be great.
Because all the other athletes would just go to Vegas party and not be able to do it.
Do absolutely nothing.
It would be a sweep of the Olympics.
Well, it's cool. Back in LA, LA hosted the 84 games. So it's been a long time. So that'd be great.
So we're going to be interested in seeing what Rob has to say about that. And speaking of him, he's joining us right now here on Fire and Ice as we are live at Union Drafthouse 12040 Tiera Este on the corner, Tiera Este and Zaragoza. Rob, thank you so much for joining us here on Fire and Ice. Tell us a little bit about the World Association of Kickboxing Organizations.
Sure. My name's Rob Zbilski. I'm president of WAKO USA. WAKO International, or WAKO, the WAKO Federation, has the rights to kickboxing worldwide under the IOC. We kind of run USA Kickboxing. It's kind of like the franchise that's connected to WAKO International. So we kind of are the governing body for kickboxing here in the United States under the USOPC.
Rob, you got some big things coming up. First and foremost, I met you on the Princess Cruise last month. It was the Caribbean Princess. You guys had all of your athletes sitting there and putting on shows on the islands and on the actual ship itself. And one thing when I met you, we had discussed was that you guys are making a bid for the 2028 games in Los Angeles, and you're on the short list of another sport that would be added. Talk about the possibility and what it would mean to you guys to be part of the 28 games.
Well, it'd be a tremendous accomplishment for the sport of kickboxing, being on the world stage, the Olympic stage. It is a long, tedious process. WAKO International, our international federation, really has been working hard to get us included in the 2028 games. Originally, there was 41 sports that applied to be in the next 2028 Olympics. I think they're down to the final 9 sports. We're one of the 9 final sports. Included in those 9 are baseball, flag football, breakdancing, cricket, squash, lacrosse, karate, and motorsports. So we're hoping that kickboxing will be selected. I think it'd be a great sport to add to the Olympics. The thing about our sport is, we have millions of people doing it every day, whether it's for fitness, whether it's in fitness clubs, martial arts schools, in karate schools, it's in Muay Thai gyms and boxing gyms. Everybody's doing kickboxing or understands the sport of kickboxing. And it's a big thing when you look at MMA. MMA is so big, but kickboxing is a big part of MMA. So I think a lot of people could relate to our sport being in the Olympics. I mean, we've got moms, that are in their 50s taking kickboxing in my gym here, and they understand the sport and they watch it, especially if they know somebody that's in the sport. So it'd be a great thing. We're hoping that they'll select us, and we should know more in the next month or so.
What has this process been like to you? Because I don't feel like this is like we just put in an application and then all of a sudden we get a yes or a no. I feel like this has to be a long journey that you've taken to get to where you are right now, even in preparation for the next, 4.5 years to get to the Olympics.
Yeah. So, I think they originally, made their bid back in the early 2000s, and then they had to go through certain different entities. For example, like GEIS is one of the organizations that approves sports for the Olympics. So they kind of put your application together, and then we had like a 4-year waiting process once we got approved as an Olympic sport. And then once we got approved as an Olympic sport, for us here in the United States, we were ready to put our application in back in 2019. And then the gymnastics scandal hit. And when that gymnastics scandal hit, they stopped accepting applications. So for us, it's been a very hard process because back then we could have applied to be a full national governing body, which means we would get exemption, from athletic commissions. Now we have to be on the Olympic platform, to get full exemption. And because of that, it's very difficult for our sport because we have 50 states that we're regulated in. And we have to apply and work with the athletic commissions in every state. And really, when you look at the athletic commissions, they're supposed to be the Department of Professional Regulation, and they're regulating amateur sports. And they don't regulate all the amateur sports, just kickboxing, Muay Thai, and MMA. So, we don't even have a level playing field, with the other sports like swimming or gymnastics or any of those sports. They're not being regulated by the government like we are. And what it means is that half the time people don't like, for example, you could take Texas, Texas, we applied to, host events there, and, their athletic commission, wants us to adopt their rules, for kickboxing. And, it doesn't do us any good because, we're training athletes to be Olympians, and we're training athletes to represent our country. And, we need them to follow our rule base, so we can develop these athletes to make sure that they understand what they're doing when they compete overseas, so trying to work our way through the states and work with the state commissions has been a real struggle. We're only approved in maybe 10 or 15 states. So really that's my pool to draw from for athletes to represent us, in the sport of kickboxing.
And I know that you had mentioned, obviously the sport you're trying to get and branch out more, like you said, here in the state of Texas. And, talk about how the sport has gained so much popularity over the last several years, especially as you noted, the mixed martial arts aspect of it. I mean, we know that boxing has already been huge for years, and then you add the kickboxing in there and the mixed martial arts, as I noted. Talk about how much fire you've literally seen the sport gain within the last several years. Because you've been coaching this organization for a long time.
Yeah, what's funny is that kickboxing was really big in the 80s. They were on ESPN, and they had fights every Saturday night. And from when I looked at the TV numbers back then, they were the fourth most watched sport on ESPN. The only ones that beat it was college football, baseball, and football. They beat hockey, they beat golf, they beat basketball, and then it went off the air. And it seemed like, since the 80s, kickboxing has been in a small wedge. They never were able to really establish themselves because after they lost that TV, our athletes really had nowhere to go, so they'd go into MMA or they'd go into boxing. And, for the last 20 years or so now, kickboxing is coming back because people see how exciting it is. They see, people want to see them stand up and fight, In WAKO, it's really exciting because, there's no clinching involved. You have to stand and, fight. You have to move or you have to hit, so it makes it exciting to where, like you could say, maybe the UFC, these guys are holding each other against the cage. And, if you understand the sport, you like it and you watch it and you understand it. But for the average viewer, they want to see people punching and kicking. And that's what our sport does. It's very fast paced, and it's point generated. Where a lot of the sports, they do 10-9 scoring. We do cumulative scoring. So I mean, you have to score the whole fight. You can't just win 2 rounds and take off the 3rd round. Or you could lose. You can win the 2 rounds and lose in the 3rd round if you get outpointed. So I really like that scoring. I like that you have to continue to fight. And I like the fast pace of our sport.
What's it like for you? Because it seems like you got such a passion for it. Obviously, you're coaching it. You're trying to get it into the Olympics. What would be like an ideal goal for you? Because I feel like kickboxing shouldn't be forgotten about, kind of like the way that swimming is or track and field is, because, we care about it. We're all about it for, a couple of months during that summer. The 4 years, we literally could not care less. So what would it do to be able to get kickboxing more into that mainstream outside of just the MMA?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we need an end result. We have a pretty good amateur program. I mean, if you look at us in Muay Thai, we have huge tournaments. We had almost 300, 400 athletes at our tournament earlier this year, fighting to get on the national team. Muay Thai had 700 or 800, maybe close to 1,000, to get on their national or to do, their nationals. I think what we need is a professional we need that professional outlet. We need for athletes that come up through our sport that we lose to boxing and we lose to MMA, where we can keep them in our sport, and get them fighting pro and make a living just like they're doing in boxing and MMA. I think that's what we need right now.
You've had the opportunity to work with so many elite athletes over the years, Rob. Talk about what an honor it's been for you to work with these individuals. And of course, you've also met a lot of UFC fighters, MMA fighters. Talk about, like I said, what it's been like for your career to continue to mold these fighters into who they've become today.
I mean, it's I've met a lot of fighters and a lot of great fighters. I think my biggest passion has been able to take my own fighters, people that I've seen walk into the gym. I've got a couple people I'm training right now that'll be fighting on the U.S. team later this year. For example, one of the girls, I've been training her since she was 6 years old. She was like a little kicker in our karate program, and then from there she went and, did the karate tournaments. She went overseas and won a gold medal. Then, right after that, she, won our nationals, got into kickboxing. It's kind of cool to see the progression from the martial arts into the ring. That's probably where I've gotten the most passion. I just had a girl that fought in the World Games last year. That was the top 8 girls in the world. And, she was another one that walked into my gym with no experience and that we were able to mold and fight. And after an 11-year career, made it to the highest level in the sport, that's been a cool thing, meeting all the different personalities, seeing how good these guys really are. It's a lot different now too. There's so many ways to train and so many things that are different than back when we were in the gym when we started. My first fight was in 1982. So back then training was, we had one kick shield, we had a focus mitt, and we had a bag. And we sparred. That was about the training. But now you've got all this cross training, and you've got all these different things that you can help to build strength and speed. And, the athletes are just, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're more prepared than they probably were back when, in the 80s and 90s when I was fighting.
So Brandon mentioned that you guys ran into each other. You met on the Princess Cruise, and then whenever he came back here, he was talking to me about all the cool stuff that he did. He said that you even, put some of the equipment on him and had him in there trying to do, some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Did you see an Olympic athlete sitting next to you?
Yeah. I think he just needs to make the commitment. He can move to Chicago here. We'll get him on a good program, nice diet. Get him going. No, I mean, it was a fun time. Like one thing that we've been working with closely with Princess Cruise Lines, and it's been a great experience over the last year and a half working with them and giving exposure to some of our athletes. And it was fun to showcase some of our top fighters. Some of the top fighters in the world were there. And, we're looking to do some more events with them. And hopefully, we're working on corporate partnership right now. And, they'll help us build the sport, especially if we get into the Olympics.
Well, I tell you what, Bill, I really enjoyed meeting you and, of course, all of your fighters. And I look forward to seeing you guys on another Princess Cruise. And I'll be in Chicago in December. Looking forward to getting some Chicago-style pizza with my, my buddy, Coach Zbilski there. And I'll tell you what, I wish you guys all the best. And certainly, I feel that you guys have a wonderful organization. I was extremely impressed because I've been involved in boxing myself for over 2 years now. And I feel that you got a great shot of making the 28 games in L.A.
No, I appreciate that. The thing about the athletes, and you met them on the cruise. It seems like kickboxers. They come from a martial arts background, and you see the respect, the discipline, how nice they were, how they were treating people. I mean, you would never know that these guys were ass kickers. World champions guys you see on TV. Because they're walking around like average people, having a good time, and very respectful to everybody. And it really was a good time. And I appreciate the support and the backing, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about WAKO USA and USA Kickboxing today.
Absolutely, Coach. Thank you for your time, sir.
Well, actually, before we let you go, what can we do to help support? Where can we drive people to visit a website and your social media, anything like that?
Yeah. So our website is wakousa.org. WAKO USA, and if you go on there, it has all our events and everything we're doing. We have an Instagram, WAKO USA Kickboxing, Facebook, WAKO USA Kickboxing. And, any support that you can give our athletes. We are not-for-profit, and most of our athletes have to raise money, to be able to fight and represent our country. that's why I think it's important if we get in the Olympics, because hopefully we'll be able to get those sponsors and the help that we need. But, these guys, they represent our country. They love what they're doing, and they're not getting paid millions of dollars to do it. They're just happy if they can get some free clothing and a little bit of help on their airline fare so they can go compete. So anything that you can do to help us out would be great.
Excellent, Rob. Thank you so much for joining us here on Fire and Ice. We're going to look forward to keeping communication with you as you get closer to the Olympics in 2028. And, of course, I want to see Brandon, and I just want to see him get knocked out. That's really all I want to do. Now. So if you can help me out with this dream of mine,
sure.
I will see what I can do.
Thanks.
We might do something in Texas here very soon, so I'll let you guys know.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you, Coach.
All right, guys. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very little for that comment. That's very kind of you.
Hey, I'm just trying to help you out, man.
Yeah,
if you get knocked out on the Olympic stage, could you imagine that?
It would be huge.
Draped in red, white, and blue, looking like Apollo Creed, just getting knocked smooth out.
Only in America. Da, 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 da. I come out like Apollo.
I need this to happen more than I need oxygen.
Yeah, I bet you do. It'd be big for Fire and Ice at the very least, right? See my ass get knocked out.
I'm always just trying to get you just beaten up by people. Jennifer Hahn, football players. Yeah. I really need to stop that.
So basically, you're always trying to make me look bad.
No. I mean, you've been in boxing for a while. I think you can hold your
rough,
own.
Man. I can't hold my own. It's rough, man. It's sometimes those guys hit hard, and I ain't a little fella, but they still hit hard. I can take a good punch though.
I got more faith in you than you have in you. So don't say I'm trying to make you look bad.
Yeah. Anyways, it was nice to have him on.
The smile that Daver had whenever I was like, we just want to see Brandon get knocked out. I've never seen him smile that big in my life.
It's nice to make Daver smile. I enjoy it. He deserves to laugh too, doesn't he?
I was happy. Okay, so before we had that time with Rob, we were talking a little bit about football, right? We broke down the AFC. We said that the two divisions that are going to be to watch are going to be the AFC East, the AFC West. No one could care less about the AFC North or the AFC South, although I think maybe we might keep a little eye on it because we kind of differ on who's going to be in the playoffs, who's going to win the division. You think it's going to be Jacksonville. I think it's going to be Tennessee. Let's go over to the NFC side of things now, right? The NFC West. A few years ago, looked like it was going to be just a gauntlet for teams to go through. Now we're looking at it. Is San Francisco really the cream of the crop? Is Arizona going to do anything with Kyler Murray? Are the Rams really going to be anything? I mean, they got Stetson Bennett, who over this last preseason game looked like a machine. Mm-hmm. I didn't draft him in one of my fantasy leagues, and now I'm regretting it because he looks like he's just a machine. And then you've got the Seattle Seahawks, who were the surprise Cinderella of last year. What do you think of whenever you see the NFC West? Like, who's going to be the cream of the crop there?
Well, I mean, clearly, at least on paper, it should be San Francisco. But, of course, the whole how's Purdy going to do? I mean, what's the situation at quarterback? Defensively, they're the best, to me, in the NFC, possibly other than Philly. And ultimately, they have McCaffrey, and they're going to use him like a workhorse. But then again, he's going to split carries, they're saying. But he's the most versatile weapon when healthy in the NFL. I think Seattle, though, is don't sneeze on them. I feel that Geno Smith made tremendous strides last year. I think he's on the verge of potentially becoming an elite quarterback. He's really good. I'm very impressed with him. Okay, you can laugh all you want, but when I'm right a year from now, blowing up fantasy leagues, I'm telling you, this kid's good.
I'm not laughing about like that statement. I think it's a true statement.
Really?
I just think it's odd that it took 11 years.
I know, right? But anyways, I mean, better late than never.
I guess.
I still think San Francisco's a team to beat, but I definitely think Seattle makes the playoffs as a wild card. But to me, the Niners are a few plays away from potentially finally making it to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, too. And whenever I watch the 49ers, I kind of think about, the stuff that they did in the draft last year, drafting Trey Lance. Just looking at the fact that right now on the depth chart, he's behind Sam Darnold.
Right.
Is
crazy.
Insane to me. And it makes me wonder, like, does San Francisco, they have to kind of regret that draft choice.
Yeah.
But whenever you look at the 49ers, who they could have had in that position other than Trey Lance. The Brock Purdy situation, I think, is going to be the biggest question mark, right? Because you look at all the talent they got there. Deebo Samuel, you got Christian McCaffrey. That defense is just
tremendous.
Monsters in San Francisco,
yeah, they're
right?
Very good.
But the quarterback position we know is the most overhyped but necessary position in sports. Mm-hmm. You have to have even just a decent game manager. The guy that they had in the past was Jimmy Garoppolo. Got him to a Super Bowl, got him through a lot of playoff games. was able to do a whole bunch of things with this team. Now he's in Vegas. You don't have that guy. So now you got a bunch of question marks with a guy that we know isn't any good in Sam Darnold, a guy that we know probably isn't going to do anything in the NFL because he's fallen behind Sam Darnold and Trey Lance, and a dude that's coming off a huge injury to his throwing shoulder.
Yeah.
And we have no idea what that guy's going to be like.
Sure. And he's only played 1 year, but he did relatively well. But he had a great defense, and he had McCaffrey, and so I mean, yeah, there are a lot of question marks, as usually the case. So, but still, I mean, to me, they're the team to beat in that division.
Yeah, easily the team to beat in that division. I don't have any faith in the Rams. Like, yeah, you got the Super Bowl. You gave everything
Arizona
up.
either.
No, and Arizona. Look,
Murray's, he's okay, but he's not as good as we thought he was going to be.
Last year, whenever I went to Mexico City,
he regressed last year.
Like I'm not doing the flex thing or anything, but last year, whenever I went to Mexico City and I got to watch that game, I was expecting to see anything out of that team. They didn't have Kyler Murray in that game. They had old boy from Texas, Colt McCoy. They had him.
Yeah.
And even then, like, no one on that team, even with the DeAndre Hopkins, didn't seem to really care. Now, I know they got rid of Cliff Kingsbury, but I don't think that was a Cliff Kingsbury issue.
No.
I think that was just the team, like, themselves. Like you look around and you don't really see a bunch of talent on that team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Connor's a decent running back and all that, but I mean, they really struggled last year. And again, I think that Murray regressed, and that's a shame to say that about him. But now he's hurt and he's out for several weeks to start this.
Whenever you're 5'2", it's hard to regress.
He's a tiny little fella. He's tiny man. It is. He's very small.
He's like my height.
Yeah, he is.
That's what's crazy.
You're a little taller than that.
What is he, like 5'8" or something? I don't know.
Yeah, he's a tiny guy though.
But yeah, so it's obviously going to be San Francisco in the NFC West. We're going to look at the NFC North now, and this one to me is just a bunch of question marks. You got the Vikings, just gave away Dalvin Cook. Maybe you got some other things there you can replace them with, but they're always a super underwhelming team. Then you got the Green Bay Packers, just got rid of Aaron Rodgers, their franchise leader in literally everything. And then you got to kind of wonder about what they're going to do in replacing him and being able to, keep the momentum and expectations that this team always has. Then the Chicago Bears, they're just an absolute dumpster fire. There's no other way of saying
we'll see, though. I mean, Fields is the real McCoy, I think, and they got DJ Moore now, and but their defense is suspect. And but the Bears could be, to me, one of the more improved teams. We'll see.
I know it's the preseason, but I love just random stats.
Yeah.
Yes, DJ Moore scored a 60-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
But every single pass that Justin Fields threw was for negative yards in the air.
He can run at least. He'll be good for fantasy. He's like a running back.
Passes,
he's like a running back. But, it's early again. I feel that Justin Fields, to me, is really going to be that quarterback that we think he could be. He could ultimately become the most dual-threat, diverse QB in the NFL, assuming he has the weapons to work with them.
And an NFL that has Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be Justin Fields is going to be the most dual-threat quarterback.
Exciting, man.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
and it's going to be Justin Fields.
I think he's exciting. I'm excited to see what happens. But
I thought that was water. That's clearly vodka.
Yeah, I think it is vodka. It's actually only a quarter drink in either. I personally feel that Detroit wins this division.
I feel the same way. I think Detroit's going to be a real fun team to watch.
St. Brown's amazing. Great wide receiver.
What's his name?
St. Brown. Amon? Is it
Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Amon-Ra St. Brown. How about the kid who used to be with LA? His name's their quarterback.
Jared Goff.
He really had a good year last year.
And
it's a good system for him.
He took a team to the Super Bowl. We can't forget that. He took a team to the Super Bowl. Yeah, they lost to the Patriots in what had to be the most boring Super Bowl in recent
memory. Wasn't that
memory.
like a 10-3 Super Bowl?
Yeah, it was garbage, but he has that on his resume. If we can praise Jimmy Garoppolo for doing it, we ought to be able to praise Jared Goff for doing it as well. That's what it is. And whenever you look at the one question mark that I'm going to have is how do you replace the running back, the DeAndre Swift? How do you replace DeAndre Swift? Because that was a dude that was a workhorse for you on that team. They
picked up Singleton, didn't they? Or Singletary, rather. But I know. Okay, I see the look. He's okay. I mean, he's a good goal line.
There's a reason why Buffalo got rid of him.
No, Chicago. I'm talking about the kid from Chicago. Yeah. They got rid of him.
Yeah,
we're talking about a different.
Okay, we're talking about a dude that nobody knew was in Chicago.
I mean, he's okay. He's Montgomery. No, I'm talking about Montgomery. My bad. I'm talking about David Montgomery. They picked him up. He's all right. He's got some miles left. He's
garbage.
He's not garbage.
Absolute dumpster.
He's not garbage.
Yeah,
come on.
Come
on. Got your dumpster juice right here.
Okay, so we're unanimous on San Francisco. We're unanimous on Detroit. Let's go to the NFC South. Mm-hmm. Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. New Orleans, the Falcons,
Mm.
and the Carolina Panthers. If you talk about a division nobody's going to watch,
Throw a dart.
like I don't think anyone's going to watch
Team
any
with 7
of those games.
wins that division.
But I would say Baker Mayfield looked kind of good in his preseason debut, although he did throw, I think it was 11 interceptions in 10 practices. So you kind of wonder about that. Is this a league or is this a division where we can really say Derek Carr is the best quarterback?
Oh boy, I hope not. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough division to obviously pick, but I don't know, man. I mean, it's like, geez, Tampa still has obviously pieces, from that Super Bowl team, and that minus Brady, but Brady wasn't, last year. Obviously, his
We
mind
will
was
never say
thinking,
an unkind word about Tom Brady.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I stopped talking. But I mean, I still feel. You notice I stopped real fast when you gave me that look. I'm going to say Tampa. Tampa has the receivers. They have the parts of the defense, and they get a decent quarterback going. Then I still think that Tampa is well enough a coach team that I think they could do it.
I would like to believe you with Tampa Bay. I would like to believe that maybe, just maybe, Atlanta could be okay.
Especially with that kid from Texas. I love him.
I'd like to think that maybe Carolina, because, living in North Carolina, I got a little bit of love for the Carolina Panthers, that they might be all right. But I think it's going to be the Saints because Derek Carr is the better quarterback. You've got, even though he's going to be suspended the first 4 games, you've got Alvin Kamara there.
Yeah, Kamara.
The biggest question mark is obviously going to be Michael Thomas's health. It seems like the guy hasn't been healthy in half a decade.
And they got that other
now.
Kid who played great last year,
Yeah,
the receiver.
and that's what. So they have some pieces too, and a really damn good defense.
Yeah, they do.
That they've got. So I think that that's going to be a team, and like you said, this isn't going to be a division where you see a team win 10
6
to
or
12
7
games. Yeah, it's going to be. I think 8.
Yeah,
you go 8 and 9, and you make it to the playoffs.
And they do make the best beignets in New Orleans. So
Yeah.
I'll stay. When the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in.
You get whiter and whiter every show.
What a numbnuts.
You're going to look like Elmer's glue by the end of
you're Elmer's glue. You're a clown. That's why I love you.
Okay, so we're split there. You're going to go Tampa. I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints. And now the division that I care about because I hate this team, and I hate the fact that they do these things to me all the time. But I am in a toxic relationship with the Dallas Cowboys. We got the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, and the Commanders, who now have a petition to get the name Redskins back. So I have no idea what's going on with that.
Should be the Redskins. I mean, I'm sorry, but I like the name Redskins better.
I like football team better than
football team is better, or it should be just the Washington. I mean, just why even have a name if
the Washingtons,
the Washington Washingtons, or the Washington Presidents. I mean, better than friggin' the Commanders the Redskins were obviously the Redskins, but I get it. You got everything going on nowadays. And
but
whatever,
they've got 97,000 people signing a petition to get them to change the name back.
With the name Redskins. I mean, again, you have the Chicago Blackhawks, you have the Seminoles. I mean, but whatever. I don't want to go into a whole debate, but I'm fine with the name Redskins. I'm going to say it right now. Okay.
So that's your team out of the NFC
No,
East?
hell no. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I hate to say it. I want to see Dallas win the division, but I still think Philly's better. They are.
The fan in me will not allow the Philadelphia Eagles to come out of my mouth as a team that wins the division. So I'm going to have to say it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys as much as I don't have faith in the Dallas Cowboys.
Your mouth to God's ears.
I don't believe the Giants. I think not having Saquon fully in for them is going to be a huge detriment to that team. I also think that they super overachieved last year. Again, we talk about these teams that win these one-score games. That doesn't translate. That's not a thing that you can rely on. The luck factor of, we got to win a game, 8-6 once against the Jaguars, right?
A baseball score.
So whenever you look at the Giants, I don't believe in them. The Redskins, Commanders, football team, whatever they are, they've got more questions than any team in the NFL, I believe. So I think it's a 2-team race here between the Cowboys and between the Eagles. I like the steps that Dallas took on defense to address the issues that they had. I think that Philadelphia's defense is going to take a step back, that they are going to revert. And then I think that now with the NFL having a full year of footage and a year to prepare for what Philadelphia does with Jalen Hurts, where they just get him in that wing tee basically, and your short line situations are there, I think now they got a little more to prepare for a guy like that it just might knock the Eagles back a little bit. I'm not saying they're a bad team at all. I think the Cowboys win anywhere between 10 to 12 games, and I can see Philadelphia winning anywhere between 10 to 12 games as well and winning that division. But I just think because I'm an asshole and I love this team way too much and I shouldn't, and they've let me down every year since I was 11 years old, I'm going to say the Dallas Cowboys are going to win this division.
And they've got to get past mid-season because the last couple of seasons they would play these opponents that knew they could beat. Then they became overconfident, and by mid-season they stalled out. If they can get over that hump, they've got a chance.
Yeah, he's right. They lost to some shitty teams last year. They had no business losing to.
The factory of disappointment known as the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, line forms to the left, dude. I mean, remember how many games like against Jacksonville they had them beat and they screwed up?
I mean, that was
Green
Jacksonville.
Bay.
Jacksonville was on
I
a roll.
understand, but whether or not the point is you can't give games away in the NFL, man. You just
the Green Bay game was the one that hurt.
You can't give games away, or else you're a shitty team, in my opinion. Good teams don't lose games like that, right? They just don't.
You win the games you need to.
You find a way to win games. That's it.
Is this potentially like if Dallas doesn't make it to the NFC Championship, which again to me that's such a point, like a moot point as far as success goes. If they don't make it to the NFC Championship, is this it for Mike McCarthy?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
then Dan Quinn becomes the guy.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, I don't. You have to make it to the NFC title game. Anything. Some people would argue that anything less than a Super Bowl is a disappointment. I mean, how many years are you going to give these guys to finally be mediocre or get over mediocrity? And making it to the second round is not good enough. How have the Bears been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 20 years, and the Cowboys haven't been to one? And I'm sorry, but it's true. And
the Bears been to 1 Super Bowl.
I thought it was 2. Didn't they lose one and win? No, wait a minute. They lost to Indianapolis. Maybe they've been to 1. Okay. But they've been to 2 NFC title games. They almost made it back to the Super Bowl.
We've got to bring the spirit of Troy Aikman back to the Cowboys.
The spirit? He's not dead.
Troy Aikman has to inject spirits.
Oh,
dude,
okay. There we go.
I mean, how many other teams have been to their conference championship games other than the Cowboys that are obscure teams? That, you know what I mean? It's like, come on now.
So I'm going to mention my guy over here, Renee Botello. He was showing me his little
Vikings
Vikings,
Minnesota, don't you know?
Fake gold chain that he's got on over here. The Vikings, I think, like we just need to remind them that the last time they played the Dallas Cowboys, the last 2 times they played the Dallas Cowboys, they got absolutely shellacked. So I'm just going to bring that point back here, right? Like that's not even a team to be worried about. But whenever you look at the Dallas Cowboys, and we're talking about the coaching and what they need as a team and a franchise and all that, is the problem Jerry? Because I don't think the problem is Jerry. Jerry spends the money. Jerry is a decent damn GM, as much as people don't want to say it is. He's a pretty damn decent GM. It's just that statistically, right? And I know nobody wants to hear this, but statistically, if you win the Super Bowl once every 32 years, you're on par.
Right.
Like, those are your odds. You're on par.
You ain't New England.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so much that happens here.
Well, we've won 1. I mean, he does spend the money, and a lot of owners don't, but he does spend the money. Right now, again, I'm going to go back to, I know I sound like a friggin' broken record, but right now their problem's the quarterback.
Yeah,
that's what I think, and I mean also arguably their coach
said that he knows he doesn't need to throw interceptions.
But shit, Sherlock, and arguably it's their coach too. So
and it's not just a matter of his knowing to not throw interceptions. He's got to be coached on how not to throw interceptions.
That helps.
It's like for me, like I know I should probably put on some sunblock whenever I'm driving with the top down on the Mustang, but guess what? I don't do it.
You don't
care. Dak, you're not supposed to throw interceptions, but man, that guy in that Redskins uniform just looks like he needs the ball right now.
Yeah. I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, buddy.
How do you play 12 games and lead the NFL in interceptions? I'm not going to get on this. Anyway,
and how about those pick sixes? Those were nice too.
Jesus.
And in the playoffs, he continued his trend, and except against Tampa Bay, but against San Francisco, he threw like 2 more, didn't he? Anyways, that's why they lost. So.
Everybody, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to Fire and Ice. I want to thank our guest, Rob Zbilski, for joining us as well from the World Association of Kickboxing Organizations. Go support them. That's WAKO, WAKO, USA.org is the website. Also visit them on social media. WAKO USA Kickboxing is where you can find them. I would love to see kickboxing in the Olympics. I was kind of shocked to hear, though, that there were 9 sports left. And one of them was breakdancing.
Yeah, I was like, excuse me? I mean, there's, curling's cool, I guess, right? But in the winter games, but breakdancing? I mean, geez, okay. Well,
I also don't feel like baseball needs the Olympics anymore because they got the World Baseball Classic.
They
that's
do.
A lot of fun.
They do, and it's significant. It's huge.
Get out of here, baseball. You already got enough going for you right now.
That you do.
So, Dave, I want to thank you for coming out here. All y'all for listening to the show as well. We are at Union Drafthouse 12040. It's a different address for me. 14020 Tiera Este on the corner of Tiera Este and Zaragoza on the far east side of El Paso. It's CiderDay, so they got the $4 ciders. They got the $2 build your own pizzas. And because I'm a depressed Dallas Cowboys fan and Dak Prescott's still my quarterback, I'm about to just go face first into a whole keg of beer and drink my pains away because I know what this season is going to bring us. Everybody, stay safer than me.
Thank you, brother. See you next a couple weeks from now.